What do you think is the future of STEAM? So when we say STEAM, we're talking about STEM plus the arts and humanities.
Have gathered from other experiences will all build upon each other and grant you the critical thinking skills and creativity to make something special and meaningful in the end.
So what I hope is that more of our students will be exposed to what real mathematics and science is, and not just all those tests that stress people out.
So welcome everyone to the Future of STEAM webinar. Excited to have you all here. Today we're going to be hearing from three amazing women who have STEM experience and who will be sharing their journey, advice, and experiences. First, we're going to start by recognizing that iGen Education Group. We work, live, teach, and learn on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish Indigenous peoples, including Squamish, Stolo, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. We greatly respect the long-standing relationships that Indigenous nations have with this land, as they are the original caretakers. In our programs, we abide by leave no trace practices of environmental conservation, and we respectfully integrate traditional knowledge and practices of land and water protection into our program. Given the recent uncoverings on residential schools across Canada, it is important we lead from an anti-racist, decolonial stance and support our Indigenous communities. Before we get started, I'd like to share a little bit of information about our organization, iGen Education Group. iGen is a STEAM and outdoor learning initiative based out of Vancouver, and our vision is to change the shape of modern education to make it fit with the rapid progression of the world and technology. In today's world, technology is rapidly evolving. We are facing an environmental crisis, and we have only begun to see the enormous impacts of globalization. And we are faced with preparing children to work in jobs that don't even exist yet today. So how do we prepare children for a world that is unknown and unpredictable? We need to equip them with the essential tools to be adaptable in the face of change and the foundational knowledge to be innovative, creative thinkers who are built to thrive in the 21st century world. At iGen, this is what we do. This event will kick off a series of events in which we will discuss STEAM, the future, ways forward, and how youth can lead the way. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our panel of speakers for this morning's event. Our first speaker will be Jilly Kai, who is a researcher in the Cornell University Architectural Robotics Lab. The next speaker will be Ariel Wu, who works at McKinsey & Company as an associate. And finally, we'll have Dr. Marina, who is one of our academic advisors at iGen, and is also an educator at UBC in the Department of Curriculum and Pedagogy. First, we'll start with Jilly. So I'll read a little bio about Jilly. Jilly studied mechanical and aerospace engineering at Cornell University and recently graduated with her master's degree. Currently, she works as a researcher and designer at Cornell's Architectural Robotics Lab. Jilly was interested in STEM from a young age. When she was a kid, she loved doing hands-on activities like designing birthday cards for her parents and building things. In high school, she became captain of the school's robotics team and enjoyed making her designs serve purposes. For that reason, she went to university to learn more about robotics and design. Her experience at university expanded her view of the many possible career paths of being an engineer. It is not only about math and science. To be a good design engineer, you also need to learn the arts and humanities. Jilly is fortunate to work with many female engineers in her daily life and believes that as long as you are pursuing your passion, you will feel empowered no matter what your gender is. Over to you, Jilly.
I think she might have dropped.
Oh, I think she had a technical issue there. Maybe she'll be rejoining us. Admit. There she is.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
No worries.
Screen it just quit suddenly. But yeah, well, thanks for a great introduction. So I guess for me, although I want to like talk a little bit about like how I get to where I am today right now. So actually, it's like still kind of a myth to myself as well. Like, you know, like how I got to where I am today. It was definitely not a really straight path. As a kid, I had many hobbies, like including, you know, making cars, all those hands-on stuff. But because of my curiosity, it has driven me to develop interest in many different fields. And these experiences and have opened up my mind, but also made it extremely hard to make a decision on what I want to study by the time I was applying to college. Back then, I used to think that like you choose this one specific major when you enter college, and that must be the subject you're most passionate about. And that is what you will dedicate your time for the next 4 years. However, after entering college, I realized that's not the case at all. College is just another place for further self-discovery, especially as someone who is in STEM, which is a very interdisciplinary field. The knowledge you have gathered from other experiences will all build upon each other and grant you the critical thinking skills and creativity to make something special and meaningful in the end. And I just want to encourage, you know, young kids that it is never too late to decide that you don't like a certain major, and you shouldn't be afraid of making changes. In my case, I didn't go directly into mechanical engineering. Instead, like I switched my major to mechanical engineering as a junior, which is a third-year college student, and I was still able to graduate on time and finally find something I'm really passionate about. So I guess it might be boring to listen to me just talking about myself, so I'll stop that for now. And as a recent graduate from STEM education, I thought it might be interesting to share with you guys the 3 projects I've been working on in the past year, showing different research focuses in the STEM field. They're all relevant to what's going on around the world and have some real life applications, which is something that I do care about a lot. These 3 projects are also at 3 different stages of project development, so I hope they can give you an idea of how a research project usually progresses. From these projects, I hope you can see that STEM is something that's very interdisciplinary. It's not only just the math and sciences, but also involve arts and humanities. And let me share my screen to the
I think whenever she tries to share something, like her connection just drops her.
Okay, I have no idea what's happening, but every time I touch my trackpad, it tends to quit. But here I'm back again. Okay, let's just go directly into it. So the first project I want to present is a non-humanoid robot system called Self-Organizing Robot Team, which is led by a PhD student at Cornell's Architectural Robotics Lab. It's a middle stage project as we have built some versions of the robot and done some user interviews. So sort is a group of robots that can move on wall surfaces. It may help you to organize your personal belonging, declutter your personal space, serve as a reminder, and deliver the items that you need at scheduled times. Here's a close-up picture of a single sorbot on the wall. It is composed of 2 circular parts that are connected and stick to the wall. Depending on your needs, you can choose different combinations of attachments for the 2 parts. For example, you can have 2 containers, 2 screens, or 1 container and 1 screen. In the specific example, the sorbot has 1 container that holds items and 1 screen that displays messages. The sorbot can also move on the wall. Here's a concept illustration of sort. Depending on your needs, there can be different numbers of sortbots in a team. This particular image shows sort carrying items needed by someone who is sick with COVID-19 and self-isolating in their home. You can see that a single sorbot moves towards a person with an inhaler and medication and lights up using LED lights. And just if you're curious, this is how a sorbot is supposed to move on the wall. It moves by having its 2 circular parts swing each other around. The sorbots can move either independently or synchronously with other sorbots in the group. And here is just another scenario of using sort. The table on the left is an example of my typical table. Sometimes you just don't realize what you do and suddenly your table is like this. And the next thing you realize is probably your parents yelling at you to clean it up. So with the help of sort, we believe users can form a good habit to put some of the small and miscellaneous things back once you're done using them. Because when you don't, sort will move towards you and keep reminding you to put them back. And here is kind of where the arts part of newly named STEAM comes in. Other than their functionalities, swords can also work as decorative elements on the wall. This image represents a sunrise, and swords will work as an alarm in the morning to wake you up. And here's sword organizing into wave shape with relaxing blue light. And this is a rather alarming red pattern. So the shapes and colors were not only randomly chosen, they have all psychological basis and were tested by user interviews. And this is where engineering becomes very interdisciplinary with other fields. So the second project I want to share with you guys is called Alice in Bookland, a robotic furnishing system that delivers public library services outside during the pandemic. This is a rather early stage project. We have done 2 rounds of prototyping and have just started building the real product. The project was initiated due to our local librarians' concerns that it is difficult to host the kind of events they did pre-pandemic due to safety concerns, and people have lost a quiet place where they can enjoy reading. People are also not informed of the services and activities library provides online since the pandemic began. With these purposes in mind, I designed Alice in Bookland. From the name, you can probably tell that I got my inspiration from Alice in Wonderland. Just like how Alice fell into the rabbit hole and started her adventure in the imaginative world, I want to create a robotic device that can transport people into the world portrayed in a storybook. So here are some prototype pictures. So the first design was completely inspired by a book and contains all the features a typical book has. The front cover is the face of a book, which gives users a title, attracts them with illustrations, makes them feel personal, and invites them into the new world full of explorations. In the case of Bookland, these functions are mapped into an LCD screen and a mirror. The back cover of a book usually provides a short blurb that summarizes its contents. Bookland has a short guide that leads users to explore this new wonderland. The table of content is a short summary that tells users what the book contains and may lead them to explore more options. It is mapped into a color-coded guide for different book genres and a poster board to advertise library events. And finally, the text is an interactive experience, a world users want to hear or see. When users pick up a book from the interactive bookshelf in Bookland, the LED lights change colors according to the plots, transporting users to somewhere else. User can also put on headphones to be more immersed in the plot. So it's basically this outdoor structure that when you go in, you go into the world of the specific book of your choice. So after we presented a design to some professionals in the fields and did some user studies, we changed the second iteration to a more whimsical structure. Instead of design that looks like a book from the first sight, we have changed the 2 covers to book pages that also look like wings of an owl. Alice in Bookland was also redesigned to focus on a more specific user group, which are the children, allowing them to discover a whole new world inside the book of their choice. The guardian owl in the middle serves as a child-friendly figure that guides the child through their adventure, like the rabbit in Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. The left and right covers serve as recomfortable walls, which can enclose the child by folding into a triangle. This design has won the Best Interaction Awards at this year's IEEE International Conference on Human-Robot Interaction, with the theme of a robot to support us through lockdown. So we decided to make it into reality. So here, just as a side note, I want to present this opportunity for youth who are interested in robotics. There is an annual international student design competition in the field of human-robot interactions called HRI SDC that is open to high school students. It is one of the rare opportunities where you can present your robotics designs to many well-established researchers around the world as a high school student. You can also learn about the most recent studies in the robotics field. And if you win the competition, they typically give out very good prizes. This year's prize was a pretty good 3D printer. So just going back to the project, here's the part of the structure we have built. We ended up making owl into a 2D structure instead of 3D one because we wanted the librarians to use the owl as an education tool to teach children about laser cutting and 3D printing, as this structure is completely built with these two techniques. As you can see, the owl has two sides. One side was color and the other was a transparent sheet of acrylic. The goal is to let the kids see how the gears work with the wings and use this as another education opportunity for kids who are interested in STEM. And here's just a simple video showing how the wings work. So it's like an ultrasonic sensor. When you approach that hole, the wings will go faster up and down. So yeah, from this project, I just want to show that, robots are not always those industrial ones you might be thinking of. They can be some really cool designs coming out from your imaginations that can fit some of the needs that the world currently needs. And I think I'm running out of time, so I probably shouldn't go into my third project. Maybe we can come back to this later.
Sure, that sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it. Great. That was super interesting.
Yeah, so I think the last one is more related to biology. And so if someone's interested in that, I'm happy to talk about it. Because I believe this is kind of a technology that'll be used in a lot of STEM fields for the next few decades. So yeah, cool.
Sorry, my mouse got lost for a second there. All right, thank you, Jilly. That's super interesting. I'm sure everyone will have some questions for you later on. All right. So our next speaker is Ariel Wu. Ariel is accomplished in both business and academia, holding a Bachelor of Science, Master of Arts in International Studies, and a Master of Business Administration. She has worked in major cities, including Tokyo, Shanghai, New York, and Chicago, and currently works as an associate at McKinsey & Company in Seattle, Washington. After starting her educational experience in the science realm, she moved towards the business sector and worked as a consultant for Deloitte Consulting. As a woman who has experience in both business and science roles, we are grateful to have Ariel here today to share some of her wisdom that she has gained throughout the years of her career thus far. And I'll stop sharing, and over to you.
Thanks, Emily. I'm not sure whether the audience today is actually familiar with what industry I'm currently working in. So I'm just going to give a short overview about of consulting, because management consulting is not a career that I want to get into. When I was in, secondary or high school, I barely know what it is. I wanted to be like an illustrator or maybe like a scriptwriter in the film industry. But then how I got into consulting is because I think it just like it's a series of events and it's a combination of my interests. So I will just start a little bit by telling you what management consulting is. I actually Googled this up. Apparently, management consulting is the practice of helping organizations to improve their performances. And usually the large organization, think about the Fortune 500s, invites us in because they have a problem within their organization that they cannot solve internally. And that can be, cost cutting, they can be boosting up their top line, they might be dealing some public crisis. They really need to bring up some good values and trying to have the public shift a impression that they already have. So as in short, we do all kinds of projects. And then it's hard to say whether this is like a STEM career. It's definitely a business career. But from what I'm seeing in the industry is that before this used to be a place where people say make a few really pretty slides, present to the CEO, say this is what we've been seeing as the best practices, please go do it. And a lot of organizations just will abide and say, okay, I will listen to you. But as this industry evolved over the years, what we've been seeing is we're trying to be more and more solution driven and really have every single suggestions that we provided be backed up by data, by analysis. And that is why we've been acquiring many different companies along the years, just to provide them that almost, I would say, the STEM flavor into our solutions. For example, before we're all called strategy consultants. but now we're hiring more and more data scientists. We're hiring actually even computer science majors just to actually build a product that our clients may be interested in. So we're trying to take in more and more talent throughout this what we call STEM discipline, to trying to make sure our product is really evolving towards our clients' interests. So right now I'm serving as a generalist, but I came from a little bit more like STEM background compared to the rest of the generalists, because during my MBA at Wharton, what I studied was business analytics. I also took a side major of decision science, which is basically simple stats with a very strong inclination into its business practice. So what we do is we're assigning problems and we're trying to build the right model around it. May that be regression, may that be Johnson's relative weights, may that be probability, and then we're really trying to solve the problems from an analytical way rather than just the original qualitative like SWOT analysis, where we really have a strong pivots in terms of how we're trying to solve things. And how this has helped me ever since I started working at McKinsey is that I think it's just a very strong signal that I am number inclined, analysis inclined. I have the expertise to go talk to our expert team, who are actually trained experts in data analysis and machine learning. So whenever there is opportunity for me to take a role to basically bridge the client as well as the expert, I think I have a natural strength there, and people would like to trust their decisions in me, which I think is what my STEM major and education has brought me. And what I think a STEM major can help like a young woman is that it does signal that you're, I think this is like a stereotype. I think people with all kinds of trainings can have like really strong sense of logical reasoning, but having that major just really beats the stereotypes as, oh, the girls they do communication really well, but when it comes to numbers, when it comes to logical thinking, maybe they're not as strong as our like, male associate partners, EMs. So I think that is definitely a way for me to beat those stereotypes. And another thing is, as I think about my future career, usually people don't stay in consulting for the rest of their lives unless they're definitely set on the partner track. So when I think about my next step, I'm thinking about pivoting back to the industry. And with a traditional consulting training background, what you can do is you usually go into business development or mergers and acquisition. But I also have the choice of being a subject expert because of my training in STEM. As in, if they're looking for someone who's an expert analyst, if they're looking for someone who's driven, for example, the data part of the marketing and sales, I do have the edge for me to send in that application and for me to be considered, which I think is very important. It just opens so many doors for you, make you look more versatile, and no matter what we want to go to expert route or the general management route, you always have that option with you. That being said, I don't think management consulting is something people really understand or have exposure to at the audience's age or their stage of life. I think if you want to get one or two takeaways from like my conversation just now, I just really want to let everyone know that STEM is something that will open doors to you. It will help you beat stereotypes in the workplace, and at the same time, it's just something that I think, at least personally, it makes me more confident and more comfortable with whatever topic I'm working on. So I think that is the core value I see in my education. I'm not really tracking with time. I think I need to stop at 11:30. So let me know if I'm on track with time. I'm also happy to take more questions later.
Sure, that sounds great. I think, yeah, questions later sounds good. And thanks for everything that you said. I definitely agree that a career in STEM can boost your confidence in every other part of your life, especially in our current pandemic world. What you see in the media, it makes it a lot easier for those things to be understood. Thank you. Okay. And then over to Dr. Marina. I'll read a quick bio about Dr. Marina. Dr. Marina is a science educator within the Department of Curriculum and Pedagogy at UBC. She specializes in teaching physics and mathematics and studies ways of using technology to promote student interest in STEM, including ways teachers can use technology to help students learn science more efficiently. For the last 25 years, she has been teaching science and mathematics in Israel, Texas, New Jersey, and Canada. Since 1994, she has been engaged in science education research. She is also actively engaged in science outreach activities in Canada and internationally. And next week, she will be co-chairing the STEM in Education 2021 conference hosted by UBC. Dr. Marina is one of our esteemed academic advisors at iGen Education, and we are very excited that she was able to be here with us today. Over to you, Dr. Marina.
Thank you, Emily. Emily, can you see the slide?
Yep, I can see it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure. And I wanted to use a few minutes to share my pathway. And I hope it will encourage a lot of you and to think what you can do with your own future and with your own career. So probably a lot of you might be asking, so what do scientists do? Yeah, who are those people? Can you become one? Or maybe where can a STEM career take you, lead you? And finally, do you make a difference? I think at the end of the day, each one of us ask ourselves, was it worth it? Because all of us, we invest so much time in our work. And I often show it to my students and I tell them, think about your career in this way. I love math, you can see. So I just estimated how much time we spend working. And if you work a 40-hour week, and as our presenters before me spoke, people who are in business maybe spend even more time every week, or passionate scientists, then you spend lots and lots of hours during your career working. And considering that this number of hours is so significant, ask yourself, is it worth for me spending all this time on something I am not passionate about? So I personally decided, no, I want to do something where my heart lies. And I have to say that my family has encouraged me. That's me a few years ago with my grandfather. And I have to say that look for an inspiration around you. I'm very lucky to have a very inspiring family. My grandfather was a physicist, my mom, all my family are engineers or doctors or scientists. But even if it's not in your family, look around. There are people, that's why this panel is so important. There are people around who pursue different careers, look up to them, see what they do, and do something that you're passionate about. As Emily mentioned before, I work with future teachers, and one of my jobs, what I do, I'm trying to figure out how to use technology to help kids learn science and mathematics in a more interesting way. So our current project that my husband and I, who's a professor in physics actually, so all my family is scientists, we're going to present, you can see, can you see the book? Maybe you can. So that's the book that we have recently published. But we asked the question, how can we use technology to support learning? And I thought, could you please raise your hand or at least tell me, I presume all of you have smartphones. It's hard to find a person who has never had one here, or maybe who doesn't have access to a tablet or something like that. Thank you, Claire, I see. So we asked, can I use my smartphone to collect data and do real science? Do it, not just read about it, not hear about it. And amazingly, yes, you can. So on our smartphones, we can install free apps, and a lot of those apps allow you to collect data. So in addition to really important applications such as Facebook or whatever you're using, you can also do real science with your phone. And that's part of my current research. We're looking how teachers can use it to help students in their high schools or elementary schools do science. So why did I choose to study STEM? I mean, obviously it's my family's influence, but I've been always a curious person. I mean, my kids, I have two boys who are now grown-ups, but they always say, our mom is curious, because I always ask questions. Why is this? Why is the color of the sky such? Why do I smell something? Why do I see something? And I think those questions, I still keep asking them. Those are intellectually interesting questions for me. I like working with interesting people. I'm inspired by interesting people. And if you go into STEM, you'll be surrounded by very inspiring and interesting people. And if you go back and remember how many hours we spend on our work, on our jobs, and being inspired by interesting people, it's just a gift. Lots of interesting job opportunities and opportunity to inspire a new generation of people. I cannot imagine of a more interesting career than that. So as I said, intellectually satisfying. For example, we're organizing a conference, which will start on Monday, that will have 400 people from 25 countries. All people are passionate about STEM, will present, will share. I mean, for me, it's very interesting and satisfying. And it's also something that I'm feeling I'm making a difference. It is very interesting because thanks to STEM, and I noticed Ariel and other presenters today, Jilly, you all traveled all around the world. Careers in STEM allow you to explore the world in an amazing way. And I just showed I was born in Ukraine, lived in Israel, in North America. I mean, that's super interesting. You experience the world, capital letter W, world. Yeah, you see the world. I also think it's very personally fulfilling. If you are surrounded, if you're in academia, you pursue STEM, you'll be surrounded by smart people, and chances are you'll marry one. And I'm talking about something that people. Okay, Jilly, you're laughing, but I think if you are surrounded by inspiring people, the chances that you marry one of them as a partner, it's very interesting. Yeah, you are surrounded by those people. Your criteria for what is an interesting person change. I mean, I also important that I have a family. A lot of people before thought if you're in academia, you don't have a family. I have an amazing family. I have two boys who are men now, 25, 27. I still think they're young boys, but they're grown-ups. I have a husband who's a physicist, a physics prof at UBC. I'm financially independent, which I think it's very important. It is important for a person, a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, to feel that I have a skill that I can sell and I can work. And it's very important to have something very specific that you know how to do well. I travel, I help teachers and students. I know lots of amazing people. So what I want to say, and I'll stop here, is that I think it's really important to choose a career that you're passionate about, and the passion can grow. And I really like what Ariel said. We change what we do. Yeah, you can start in consulting, then you switch to something else. But whatever your experiences are, they build up you, who you are. And it's okay to choose something to switch. I wanted to be an educator. My mom recommended me first to pursue a solid science career and then become an educator, which I think it's a right decision. But I think a lot of people today change careers. So STEM is a great foundation that you can go to all different places from STEM. And so I will finish with the picture and the question to you. Where will STEM take you? And I wish you all the best. I think I'm done. Maybe I'm a little bit too fast, but
That was excellent.
we have more time for questions.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So I have one question that I would like to ask to our panel and to everyone in attendance. Maybe we'll ask the panel first. What do you think is the future of STEAM? So when we say STEAM, we're talking about STEM plus the arts and humanities. What do you see as the future of STEAM?
I can start, and then a few weeks ago, I helped to organize a conference and participated, in a conference in Finland. And that was exactly the question, what is the future of STEAM? And different people include different like what does STEAM mean? We even wrote a paper about it. I think that the future is that the borders between subjects will be more and more blurred. So when you think about it, I think we started actually, if you think of Galileo and other scientists, they were natural philosophers. Yeah, Galileo was not a physicist. He studied medicine, he studied science, he studied mathematics, he studied art. And I think it's a very interesting stage where we're now coming back, realizing that the merger between the field is the most interesting part. So for me, STEAM, I do not know what we label, but it's not about the labels, it's about the borders. I think the borders between fields become super interesting today.
Absolutely. Isha, what do you think is the future of STEAM?
Yeah, just as Miss Milner just said, I think I was speaking to my parents about this too. The same thing, like all of the subjects are going to be so interconnected. So I was just talking about how I really dislike math, but I really like science. And I was like, I probably don't need to take math in the higher grades of high school. But I was talking to my parents and they said that the connection between both of the subjects is going to be so strong and it's going to be so visible there when you become like whatever career it is that you want in STEAM. So that's why it's important that, you know, you do both subjects, because literally like all the subjects that we do right now are going to be interconnected when you have a career.
Absolutely. Thank you.
May I just comment quickly to Isha's dislike math? I think, Isha, you dislike not math what you think math is. I think a lot of our students have not had a chance to explore real mathematics. I'm very lucky that my parents from the beginning introduced me to real mathematics is not doing things fast. You know, at school, we're always stressed about tests fast. It has nothing to do with math. I think real mathematics is solving puzzles. And most of us like puzzles. And so what I hope is that more of our students will be exposed to what real mathematics and science is, and not just all those tests that stress people out.
Yeah, I agree with that, because especially in school, it's more so to finish what's on the curriculum or what's on, you know, the topics that we're supposed to do in each grade, rather than learn them properly or be able to do like interactive hands-on stuff. So yeah, I try to do stuff like on my own, and I wouldn't say that I really dislike math, but just the way I've been taught math throughout like high school.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm only in grade 9, so like
Yeah.
1 year of high school and throughout like elementary school, I think that's what's made me dislike it, rather than me just disliking math on its own.
Good. Remember that. Yeah.
Should I go next and try to answer this question? I really agree with everything Dr. Marina has said. I think there is a very, very close collaboration, and I also think there will be a friendly competition between the humanity arts discipline with the rest of the STEM. Because my dream of becoming an illustrator still keeps me very invested in everything that's happening in the illustration world. And some of the new news I've been seeing today is there are technologies that basically can convert very raw, like rough drawings into beautiful renderings. And there are also technologies that can take basically one art styles and have that map to something like a painting of a very famous artist in the past. And that really calls the questions like, do we still need arts? Do we still need real like illustrators, or can we really trust technology with everything that we are seeing? And then and all my illustrator friends say, no, we can bring more to the table. There's more like value can add to this. And science like, let me see what you mean by personal style. What do you mean by your value? And there is this like very friendly competition that's going on. And what I've been seeing is, as a result, we are able to see more and better work of quality as this competition is happening. And then I don't think this conversation is like, oh, is technology replacing like human being? But it's more like how like those two can flourish at the same time, which I do see it under a very positive light.
Yeah, just to add on, I do agree with everything you guys said, how, you know, all the majors are becoming more and more interdisciplinary and the boundaries are becoming blurry. And I do think if you pursue something in STEM, it's a really good start and gives you an advantage in this new future. Because I think what STEM has taught me, the most important thing is, you know, being able to have the critical thinking skills to solve all the puzzles around me, and having this curiosity to keep discovering. And you will realize, you know, something you do in the future, you might not have learned about them in the textbook or in your classroom, but because of you have gained this really great skills from learning STEM, you will have the ability to learn about like all the things you're interested in, like yourself in your life, and then you can eventually develop something. They all build on each other, and you will eventually find something you're passionate about to develop about it. And for Asia, yeah, definitely. I do agree that even when I was in high school, there was a stage that I feel like I don't like math and science anymore, because we're just doing like, the same kind of problems, like getting faster and faster at them to be better at them. But when you go into like a higher education, you will have a lot more freedom. Math and science are important because they give you kind of like this baseline so you can understand what's going on with the new technologies. But once you go into your university, you will have a lot more opportunity to actually apply them instead of just focusing on the problems on the paper.
I couldn't agree more with all of those statements that you all said. If anyone else that is in attendance has anything to say about what you see as the future of STEM, feel free to, or STEAM, feel free to send it in the chat. And now we'll open it up to a Q&A if anyone has any questions for any of our panelists. And if anyone wants Jilly to show us the rest of her research, let us know in the chat or unmute.
Wait, so the question is, what is the future of STEAM?
Yes.
Well, I think the future of STEAM leads to careers and schools in general, sort of like education and career wise. I think it represents 5 important parts of the business thingy and the education. What is it called again? I don't know, formula? I don't know. Anyway, I think it's just something really important that we sort of like use in our lifetimes as sort of like tools. Is that what we call it? Yeah. I think they're important tools that we use in our lives.
May I just say something about what Claire tried to say and others? May I, Emily? Yeah?
Yes, sorry, I lost now.
Okay. I just think that we have to realize that labels will change. Today we call it STEAM, tomorrow it's going to be another label, etc. It's like fashion, it's like clothing. However, what will not change is your ability to learn and your ability to tackle the unknown. And I see a lot of people who see something new and they totally, oh my God, I've never done it, I'm giving up. And yet people who are in STEM, we are taught, well, we're learning to deal with unknown, we're learning to not to give up, to ask new questions. And I think in many ways, it also applies to the arts, because think of an artist who's building a new building, or think of Leonardo da Vinci or a lot of other artists. And I recently had an opportunity to talk to a very famous artist whose name is Newton Harrison. So I spoke to Newton, which was very fun too. But I think the commonalities between us is how we deal with the unknown. And as in this century and on, I think more and more of unknown will come up. Think about COVID. Think how many things can come that none of us could have expected. So that's what you learn in STEM, I think. You're learning to deal with the unknown, not to give up, to analyze. And I really liked what Jilly was saying and Ariel in terms of how you face these new things, how you mobilize what you have learned before. And so I think going and pursuing STEM is so important, not because you'll do it all your life, but because it equips you to deal with the unknown. And I think it's a very important skill. It will teach you to learn.
I definitely agree with that. I think that it's such a foundation. Like STEM is something that I think that iGen has been trying to emphasize is the different ways that everyone learns. And hands-on learning and actually turning that theory into action and seeing like what can math and science and technology, how can they intersect, and then how can I create something from that. I think that yeah, and as all of you have said, those are the experiences that kind of shape where you go and who you are and the way that you learn going forward. So absolutely. Does anyone have any other questions or any other comments that you would like to share? I know that, okay, Isha, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in my video that I made for iGen education. It was basically just about what was, pushing you and what was your motivation and drive to pursue the career, because of course, like any career in STEM, it requires just a lot of persistence because the education length is really long. There are a lot of hardships that come when it comes to becoming in and going into any career. But what do you think was, your motivation and your drive to become what you are today?
Isha, before somebody else answers, tell me what real career does not require a lot of learning? A job at Safeway does not require a lot of learning because you can learn it in a day, but any career today requires learning. People are naive thinking that what a musician doesn't learn, or a dancer, or anybody, an athlete. I think it's very naive today to think that all the careers are easy and STEM is hard. I think if you become a professional with capital P, a real professional, then you spend lots of time working. Jilly and Ariel, am I right? Or is it easy to be in your careers? So any career requires learning, I think. But anyways, you guys answer.
Yeah, definitely. I was just gonna mention that, like, I think in any career it's really important, but I was just saying like specifically in STEM just because like I talk to a lot of people about what I want to become, but usually the emphasis of others around me is that, oh my God, you're going to be in school for so long. Oh, you're going to.
I'm still in school. I'm 51.
Yeah. But like for me personally, I want to go to medical school. So like I want to become a professional in that area. But if you talk to anybody my age or even older than me, even going into, university, they always just emphasize on the point that you're going to be in school for so long. So I was just going to ask, what was your motivation and your drive to keep on going, even though there's like a lot of hardships and a lot of people saying a lot of stuff to you? What kept you going and what like motivated you to still be pursuing the career that you wanted to?
I think I might be relate a little bit more to that. I think in a way that I didn't choose to go into my career. It's just like a series of events, as I mentioned. When I first studied undergrad, my undergrad is actually more business than STEM than anything. And then what I struggle with is when I go into a room, I'm like, am I going to be able to do this job? Because I didn't even study calculus all my life, like mind you. And then I always have that imposter syndrome. It's like, maybe I'm just not as smart. Like I didn't have good grades in math. Maybe I just can't handle this. That is why when I go into my master's, I hardcore pivot into the most mathy, most analytical items. Not because I love it to start with, but more because like, hey, can I just trying to have something to prove that I am not stupid? Literally, that's my mindset. But so I'm more like the underdog type. I am just like, I'm not good at this, but let me see whether I can do it or not. And the answer is like, not only I could do it, and I found it something that I actually really enjoyed because I really liked fact-based, data analytics-based solutions rather than the qualitative side. And I think that really opened a lot of doors to me. And then people will say, well, this is harder, but you don't know whether it's hard or not until you actually start it and see whether it's a fit for yourself. And I would say some people are happier than others because they're good at what they're doing, what they want to do, and then it pays them well. But usually those three doesn't have an overlap. And that's a decision for you to choose, like, is the effort really worth it? Is the payout actually worth the effort? For me, I got into consulting, and then great, that's a job that I don't hate. I actually enjoy going to work every day, although the hours is really dreadful. And then I get paid pretty well. I can really use my skill set that I learned from my school. So I think I'm one of the like lucky ones. But when your friends are challenging you, I'm pretty sure like everyone needs to do those trade-offs, and then you just need to find an answer that fits your own, and then make your own like experience. I think that's my take on that one.
Yeah, so what I want to say is, when people say these things to you, like, oh, isn't it like, painful? I can't imagine you will spend so much time in like school. They came in with a pre-mindset that going to school for a long time is a torturous journey. But in fact, that's not the case. Especially like you don't know, like it really depends on the people. And if you haven't had that experience yet, you shouldn't let your imaginations make you be scared of anything. And I just want to let you know that you always have choices in life. If, for example, if you want to become a doctor, you go to the university, you study that, and you realize you really don't enjoy it. Maybe that's just not something you're passionate enough about. And because you have a STEM background, it's not that hard for you to switch to another major and just keep discovering. You will always be able to find something you're passionate about and you want to pursue for a long time in life. And yeah, so like even if you don't go to school, even if you go to industry, I'm pretty sure Ariel will agree, like as a consultant, you have to learn about many different things every day. It's not something only about your major, you are constantly learning. So it's also a learning process. It's just like whether you're in a school setting or in a industry setting, but learning is always part of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lifelong learning mindset is a concept that a lot of us are starting to hear more about, because in our ever-changing, fast-paced, globalized world, we need to constantly be learning and adapting. And yeah, lifelong learning mindset is the only way to really do that. So in any industry that you go into, it's going to be constantly learning. And if you're not learning, then it's boring. So I think learning is the best way to keep your mind engaged and actually keep your work interesting. So thank you, all of you speakers. Thank you so much for joining us. Professor Marina, Jilly, Ariel, that was some amazing insight. I think we all definitely learned something from your experiences and your words that you've shared with us today. And I'm excited that we can record this webinar and we're going to be able to share it on our social media for many other people to be able to learn from your experiences.